Okay, cool. Our farm visits. That's Martin, who's the chef at the uni.
Do they always come in their chef uniform?
Always.
No, that was, yeah.
We don't let them on unless they
And they're
dress.
always in their farm
Dress appropriately. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the.
Weird.
Oh,
Do we want that? Not really.
I could still kind of do it. Never mind. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the practicalities of actually doing this. And I can probably go on forever about this, so I'm trying to not. So to start off, we're talking a bit more about the buyers side of things. So at the moment we've got just over 20 buyers. I think when I started in April 2012 and we had 4. So it feels amazing to have that many buyers now. We've got quite a range of buyers, and it's like, this is one thing when you're starting out, you don't feel like you can be very picky and if anyone says they want to be involved, you're like, yes, please. So we've got all sorts of different buyers, from little cafes to like high-end restaurants to like medium-sized gastropub type places like University of Manchester. Some of those buyers we're probably maybe losing, some of those buyers are subsidising the other ones, like the uni is buying massive quantities and is quite close to where we're delivering from. So that's a really good one to do because we're going quite far out. So it's difficult, it's really difficult when you're starting out to kind of get that all to balance. The buyers that are our real bread and butter and that are the really good ones to go for are like the gastropub type places, because they have quite a lot of covers, doing a lot of food, the sort of veg we sell is the sort of veg they love. They order regularly, so they're great, they're brilliant. The university is obviously brilliant because it buys big quantities, but then it just disappears for like a couple of months of the year, which is pretty difficult. But they're still worth having on board in terms of the times when they are there. It's great. So yeah, it's important. I think when you're thinking about what markets are going to go for, it is really important to think about the kind of advantages and disadvantages of different sorts of market. We kind of mainly went for the restaurant market because of that gap in the market, and then we've learned lots of things about restaurants since, like high-end restaurants buy ridiculously small quantities of veg, like tiny. But we have this one restaurant called Aubrey on board, which are a really, really great restaurant and have a lot of press, and that in itself is really good because they are some of our most proactive buyers in terms of publicising what we're doing. So you have to balance that out. It's like what they're buying with how supportive they are, what the good publicity they're doing, the good kind of all that sort of side of things. So there's a lot of things to consider. So at the moment, with that amount, so we've got like 8 growers, counting farm style, which Helen will talk about them all as one, and 20 plus buyers. That's not financially viable with that amount. At the moment, we've got funding, RDP, Rural Development Programme for England funding, which is paying for my salary, my wages, basically. And if we didn't have that at the moment, it wouldn't work. We basically got that so that funding started April 2012 and it's running until September. And I don't think we could have really got going without that. I think like it's way too hard to start from a standing start.
How often do you work? Like, are you full-time?
I'm full-time, and I'm like way there could definitely be, because I'm doing everything at the moment, basically. I'm doing all the deliveries, all the ordering, all the finances, all the admin, all the marketing, like literally everything. And it is getting to that point, and which every business gets to, every small business gets to this point where oh my god, I'm completely at capacity, how am I going to grow the business? Like, you have to take that big leap where you kind of take on another member of staff, or it's just, it is it is a really interesting time at the moment because I could work double the time I work. So that RDP funding was absolutely crucial to get it off the ground. We occasionally have volunteers. I mean, I've only just actually started taking on volunteers, and it's a difficult one to find something kind of meaningful for volunteers to do in this job, because it is a lot of, like, it's, you know, they've helped a little bit with marketing stuff, and we're running a crowdfunding campaign at the moment, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And they've helped with that sort of thing, but yeah, it's difficult, and it's also difficult because I'm overstretched for me to support volunteers properly. So I don't want to take on volunteers and not kind of give them a good experience. So,
and also the idea in a way is not to have volunteers. The idea is that we pay, that is that we can pay everyone really.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some at kindling, and then we can sort of farm them out.
Yeah.
To manage to fetch people when there's bits like this, but yeah, generally it's about trying to.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to start giving volunteers crucial bits of the job that they should be being paid for, because that's really unfair.
Are you going to talk about the details of the economics in a bit?
How do
Just
you...
specifically, like, to how many more buyers or growers would you need to become viable? Or like, if you like, whatever the term actually means. And then what's the threshold beyond which you then have to take on a member of staff to handle that? You know, where do those sort of crossover points come in?
So...
Do you know that yet?
It's pretty difficult to have a handle on that because there's so many different factors in play. One thing that it also depends on what trying to get the buyers you have to buy more. So that's one thing so the product range we had last year was really not big enough. We had
So there was demand for stuff that you weren't able to supply at different specific products.
Yeah. You need to have a big product range. You really do. And I think like last year was a really, really, really difficult year because we had less growers, we had a smaller product range, and then it was the worst growing season ever.
Yeah.
So combined with having a too small range anyway, we didn't have that stuff.
Yeah.
So we had an absolute nightmare of a year last year, and we should have been in a much better position now than we are. We were thinking that 18 months of funding, by the time we get to September this year, will be viable and will be going, and that'll be fine.
Because you'd have generated more sales.
Yeah, exactly. But we just couldn't. We didn't. Last summer, we really weren't going out and pushing it and trying to get more buyers on board because we didn't have anything to sell. So we then took on another big grower in September last year, and we took him on at the same time as starting to supply the university halls residents. And that kind of made that viable for him because he's a bigger grower, and it also made, we had to do two things together, and then we could try and push and start going out for more buyers. But you're constantly coming up with chicken and egg situations where you're just like, oh, which one of these do I do first? It's always getting that balance between how many growers, how much produce you've got and how many buyers you've got is really, really difficult to balance,
How large are your growers? And I'm struggling to find more growers.
So we've now got 8 growers. They really vary in size. So there's a kindling project called Farm Start, which is giving new complete new to growing like quarter-acre plot to start off with. So they're our like smallest growers, and we're just starting to get their produce now.
What's that called?
Farm Start. So
I'm going to talk about that.
Helen's going to talk about that after me. I realised we're slightly anyway. And our biggest grower is this guy, Dan, who's out in Ormskirk. He's like 140 acres. Some of that's cereals, but it's kind of, and then a lot of other growers are kind of market garden size, basically. So there's a real range of different.
And just to say, the reason we could take on bigger growers was because originally we started off from the point of saying 30, like we wanted to only source from 30 miles from the centre of Manchester. And basically, they're just from the year that was rubbish, just for everyone, a horrible time for all the growers. We just went, right, we can't do this and have more buyers. So we said, all right, we'll go 50 miles, which is still totally acceptable. It's just we were like, no, hardcore. So we went out, a bit grumpily, and then kind of saying to everyone, we're going to still come back to 30 miles at some point when we've got more growers. But anyway, just to
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to work out at the beginning, is who's out there, and are you, like, I think if we look back on what we did, I think it would have been, we could have got going a lot quicker if we'd have got these other growers out in Ormskirk and filed on board from the start, and because it's just so difficult to get buyers on board without the range. Yeah.
Your growers have to be organically certified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in transition?
Yeah. So the co-op itself is certified as a processor, and all our growers are. So we basically decide on this as a co-op together. So recently we made a decision. So we started off just taking certified produce, and then recently we made a decision to take certified and in conversion, and we'll also buy from growers in their first year who have registered but not classed as in conversion yet, because we wanted to support growers who are just starting out, and make sure that we're buying their veg from the get-go kind of thing. The reason we talked about doing kind of peer-to-peer certification and not necessarily, because it is expensive to get certified, but because we're all kind of rushed off our feet and totally at capacity, we didn't feel that we had capacity as a co-op to do the peer-to-peer thing, so it's just easier to do the certification thing. Yeah.
What sort of volumes do you ship on a good day when the university's on board, and on a bad day when the university's out of season?
So tomorrow, salad leaves are a big seller, and tomorrow we're probably selling we're selling 30 kilos to the uni and 25 kilos to all our other buyers. So
Per week?
sorry.
Per week?
But that's just one delivery. So we did 2 deliveries a week. We do Mondays and Thursdays. And Thursdays at the moment is always more popular because the uni halls aren't there. When the uni halls are there, they buy on Mondays basically.
So my guess then is the problem is on the buyer side, not on the supplier side.
At the moment, yeah.
140 acres.
Yeah.
You do a lot bigger volume than that. So
Although, so for the stuff that's coming from the market gardens, we're pretty much at capacity with what they've got on offer, because they're only offering, say, I don't know, 30 kilos of broad beans a week or something, a delivery day. So that's something that is
how about the farmers to doing multiple crops so you can have a lot more product diversity from one farm rather than just, I want to do this crop?
Yeah, we do that. So we have got market gardens like doubling up. So there's 2 places doing broad beans, there's 2 places doing courgettes.
But I mean, growing 16 crops instead of 2 crops, people are prepared to go through that pain or not?
all of them do diversity. None of them only do a couple. Because the way that organic growers work is that you have to grow a lot of things, really, just because of rotation and stuff, so everyone grows more rather than
Okay, so you've already got that diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do with having more, but what we need is undercover to have that. There's only so many things you can grow in the northwest without having cover, so what we need is a lot more undercover, but then what we need is money to buy undercover. Know this.
But and even Bradford, yeah.
Did you just want to, your 35% covers the distribution cost as well, or that's just a farm gate price?
Yeah. So I'm hopefully I'm skipping about a bit now in all the different sections, but so yes, so we do free delivery and no minimum order to buyers who are within 5 miles of Manchester City Centre. If they're outside of that radius, then I basically work out what a minimum order would be from them, and if they order under the minimum order, then I add on a delivery charge. So yeah, it's not an exact science. So I'm going to, since we started talking about producers, I'm going to just finish off the producer section and I'll go back to the bit I was saying about the buyers. So yeah, we have different sizes of producers. This is difficult to balance out. but it's interesting because so Dan, who's our one big grower, he although we're buying small amounts for him, you know, he's selling tons and tons of beetroot to like Poland or something. It is. He actually likes working with us because those big buyers are probably taking 6 months to pay or something like that. So it's kind of it's actually working out for him to work with us because we pay regularly. So we'll pay as soon as he's invoiced us, basically. So he's balancing out now having a big income, but like this is a classic problem for veg growers, that people just don't pay for ages. So he's balancing that with having a small regular income from us. So there's kind of this. There are still, you know, we've chatted to him about it, and he's like, we're sorry, we're not buying massive quantities from you, but it works out for him. And also it's about the growers working together. So he's got another grower, Jenny, who runs Climate Friendly Food, and that's a more smaller kind of community interest company, market garden type thing, but she's renting polytunnels off him. So those two are working together to help get the veg into Manchester. So there's all these kind of opportunities for making it. You've got to just like, when you're starting out, you've just got to find ways of making it work, basically, and it's not, you know. So yeah, but in terms of our type of buyers and working with restaurants, they do tend to order small amounts. It is logistically a bit of a nightmare for me doing the orders, trying to like get in lots and lots of little orders and work it out and then get the orders in from the growers. But so it does kind of work. It maybe works better with the market garden size growers. It's really good for that size growers. But we need to go to bigger, because you don't get field crops like roots and brassicas and stuff so much from the smaller market gardens. So you've just got to balance it out. And the big issue to think about on the producer side is the supply of veg throughout the year, so winter supply of veg. So we're obviously only doing local. Most of our veg is about in the summer and autumn, and it's really, really important. I think we didn't have a winter supply of veg when we started out, and now we've got this guy over in Ormskirk who's doing root veg all through the winter. And we could do with getting another grower who's doing winter veg as well. It's really important to kind of think about that.